So there's the individual side, which is quality of life. And on the corporate side, we're talking big numbers. When we talk about turnover, it's a very expensive problem for a company.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hello, and welcome to the show. My name is Rick Nusky. I'm your host, and I have just the most wonderful guest lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about employee retention. I'm going to be doing that with the wonderful Manal Yoshi Yaxley. Welcome to the show, Manal.
Hi, good morning. How are you, Rick?
Oh, look, I've got 2 feet and a heartbeat. I can't complain too much. Now, we're going to be talking, as I mentioned earlier, about your work as CEO and founder of a company called OpenElevator. And we're going to be talking about how your technology solves the employee turnover problem and saves companies thousands of dollars annually. But before we do any of that, it's customary for the sake of context, to learn a little bit more about you. So let's start off with the obvious. Where are you calling in from today?
So, shall I warn you? I don't have any straightforward answers, but actually this morning, well, I say morning, it's afternoon for you.
Yes.
I'm calling you from Zurich, Switzerland, but my business is actually based out of New York.
Yes, I noticed that, and that's interesting. I'd love to talk about where you live. That must be absolutely gorgeous.
It really is. I mean, actually, I once watched a documentary where the commentator was saying how humans are designed by nature to love our own landscape on Earth. And, really it is something beautiful and striking to be here. The mountains, the lakes.
Yeah, I see these, when I think of Switzerland, I think of obviously the flag's a very standout one, the Swiss Army knife, you think about that as well. But I do think about those incredible mountain drops behind wherever you are. They seem to be prominent. Is that the case?
Yes, it actually is. The whether as I mentioned, I'm in Zurich, but I think if you're in Geneva, Lucerne, and even some of the less known locations, it is spectacular having the mountains and the lake. And I think, especially when I see tourists here, I feel like, I hope they're here on a good weather day, that they actually can see the blue water against the enormous mountains surrounding the areas.
So tell us a little bit about your lifestyle. Do they have a very different lifestyle there compared to the States? What do you do in particular?
Yeah, so I mean, specifically, I said, I don't have any straightforward answers. But so actually, I've talked very positively about Switzerland. I must say I can really go on about a lot of other places. So as you I don't know if it's obvious for you, but for some reason, I think it's always obvious for people that I'm Indian by heritage. And actually, I was not so obvious, but born in Africa, in Zambia, actually. And I grew up in the States, which, of course, my accent always gives away. And so I think, wherever you live, a lot of life is made up of, meeting friends and family, doing all the normal things that we all do. So I think that's the richness of life, right? All the
Yes.
connections that we have.
Well, tell me a little bit about that, the cultural diversity that you've had in your life and how that's impacted the woman that you've become today. Does that shine through, do you think?
Well, yes, actually, I'm gonna take it in a different direction, but I think not only have I had a diverse background as far as, geography, I actually am not only from education, so I actually have a chemistry degree, I have an MBA, but also in the places that I've worked. So I've done, wet chemistry, working in a pharma company, in the lab, to working for a tech company, managing a large product line, multi-million-dollar equipment for semiconductor industry. And then I've worked in financial services, actually doing investor relations, talking to investors about the specific companies So I think not only from a geography perspective, but I think my whole life is colored by a lot of diverse experiences. And I think that really adds to how I think I can connect with nearly anybody. It's like,
Yes,
oh, we're
absolutely.
probably related somehow if you're from there.
Absolutely. Look, I'd love to learn a little bit about the things that you enjoy doing in your pastime. Do you get much time to, I guess, relax and do things for yourself?
Right. Yes. So in my private time, in my downtime, yes, I have a 14-year-old son and a
Oh,
lovely husband. Yeah. So I think the thing that we do in common, I think, is go for longer hikes. So I think that's like the nice thing we do together. Of course, being of different, from a teenage boy, the things he likes to do and the things like gaming, we don't have that much in common. But
sounds like my kids.
yeah, oh, it's hard to know sometimes what they're talking about, isn't it?
Yes,
So,
absolutely, absolutely. Now, do you enjoy cuisine? Do you enjoy getting out with your husband and eating? I do.
oh my goodness, yes. And I mean, how lucky are we, right? Like the concept of fusion cooking from all the lovely things we get to have and try. Yeah, of course, of course. Okay, I have to say, shout out to my mom. I
It's
love
funny,
her.
I always think about my mum when I think cooking because I certainly am not a cook. Are you a cook?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
you
I
enjoy
actually
it?
love to try things. I love to be creative. I love to actually, my husband says I'm a MacGyver in the kitchen. It's like, oh, one eggplant, a toothpick, and some feta cheese. Okay.
We'll try that. If it doesn't work this time around, we probably won't do that again. Now, I'm a lover of pets. Do you have any pets?
Oh, no, I don't.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I mean our neighbor's cat loves to hang out on our balcony, but that's about all.
Now, we've talked about mum, so it leads me to my next question. When you're growing up, do you have a fond memory that you could share with us? I always like to think about those types of early years in our formative years and things that we remember fondly.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna sound very silly actually when you say that because actually, I don't have something off the cuff,
No, no.
but it kind of came to my mind when we were in Zambia. So I did. I've been living in the U.S. since I was almost 11 years old.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
had when you think about formative years, to me, I think about when I was even younger than that. So being in Zambia, and we would pile in. My dad would take us for ice cream on weekends. I think that's a very nice memory I have.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing. I love this sort of call. Now, are you an early riser? I'm certainly not an early riser. Tell us about your day. What's a day look like for you?
Um, Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, it's all relatively speaking. We have friends who, when we go on vacation with them, we meet them at breakfast when they're done. But I am a bit of an early riser. Actually, when I was working, now we all kind of roll out of bed post COVID and are already in our home office. But, since the commute. But I think there was a time where I used to get up easily before, like before 5, do a workout, get ready, then get my son out the door, get myself out the door. And now I think, how is that happening? So,
And that's quite relevant that we have just touched on that need to travel to work because I think there's a bit of a change in the wings and we're going to talk about that when we talk about the reasons behind all of these things. Now, but before we do that, we have a lot of startup entrepreneurs who have not walked a path yet. They're looking to start out as a business owner and they don't know what they're doing. They're as green as the grass is long. So with that being in mind, what would you say the one thing that brand new business owners should be aware of and try to make a normal part of their day as they go about starting their own business?
um, wow, so many things actually. I mean, it's definitely a challenging road.
Mm.
And frequently you hit a wall, well, I do anyway, which is to say, okay, this is all, here's all your experiences that you have from the past. Here's all the know-how you have. And now you're confronted with something that's completely new. And I think there's two things, being resourceful, whether it's Google, thank God for Google, to talking to different people, depending on what the issue is, and also being kind of resilient, right? Which is like, you don't know this now, but you will in the future. You've learned other things. So this is also just another thing that you have to
take on. Yep.
Take on. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know that very well.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. So. Yeah, no, there's always a challenge around the next corner. I'm wondering, given that I guess young entrepreneurs have a tendency to burn the candle at both ends, how important is it for you to get an appropriate amount of rest and step away from the business occasionally?
Oh, it is important. However, I think I'm not the best at it because it really depends on what's going on. The maybe that was the other secret thing that you know about, which is that when you have enough passion for your business, it doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m. So like, for example, this morning, I really was literally up at 3 a.m. because actually here it's only 4:45. So, I think for the business, actually, I do a lot of things that if there wasn't the passion, I imagine I wouldn't do it. I guess I just stopped to think about, I've come home on vacation and realized something needed to be tested, and I was, not unpacking. I wasn't thinking what we were going to have for dinner. I was,
go.
You've done that. I'm sure you've done that, right? Because there's this, maybe the word passion is even not correct. There's just this commitment, right?
Absolutely. It's that burning fire that never seems to get quenched no matter what we do with it. It's always there, isn't it?
It is. And I think that's kind of lucky, actually, right? Because we would have, don't you think so? Because there are so many challenges. It's just endless, actually.
So tell us a little bit, I guess, about, your professional background leading up to this point in time, because I think it's important, because sometimes people find it difficult to go from, I guess, somewhat of a corporate history into the entrepreneurial space. What was that journey like?
So a little bit about my own background. I didn't grow up with this upbringing like, oh, what do I want to be when I grew up? Kind of like I never had a particular answer for that. So I was just kind of like going from one, I'll say, fun thing to another. So even getting a chemistry degree, I was just good at physical chemistry. So the department said, yeah, which is an odd thing to be good at, actually.
Not really. No. We need more people like you, that's for sure.
Yeah. He was like, oh, you should really think about doing this. And then, from there, I actually moved to Silicon Valley. Quite a story there. But so I was working for a I was working for a semiconductor equipment company using my technology background, of course. And I'm, as you've noticed, Rick, I'm very communicative. So it's just like I have like this weird combination of which serves me very well, which is I'm highly analytical and yet very communicative. So having done that, I've always had these opportunities kept opening up. And it was just, that's how my career evolved. It's kind of like you are walking through a forest and you naturally come upon forks in the road and you say, oh, look, there's the sea. And I'll walk towards that. And then you walking further along and you think, oh, I want to go more into the, into this lush forest. And that was really a wonderful journey that I kept having positive things coming up for me and challenges, right? I mean, for example, when I started doing investor relations for Julius Baer, it was just strange that they asked me, can you do this for a few weeks? Because they had this major acquisition, and no one in their right mind would have asked someone who had no knowledge of this business and yet it just opportunities kept coming my way. And then I think I've told you this, that basically we had the financial crisis at the same time I had my son. And actually I was in the hospital having my son when Lehman collapsed. So it really stands out in my mind. I'm sure it stands out in a lot of people's minds.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
right. When I came back to work, I felt very fortunate that I could decide that I wanted to work part-time because I wanted to spend time with this child that I had had and whatnot. But the environment changed tremendously. And something that maybe as a white man, I hope you can laugh.
I'm not too sensitive like that.
Okay, you know what? I have to tell you a secret. So
Yeah,
I
do
tell
that.
everybody this, and everyone knows this about me. So I'm sorry, it's not such a good secret. I think I'm funny, you know. I have been going on saying, you know, I see comedians have been getting slapped because I would think that would be my next career move, and people want to slap me anyway. So I think that would, it's like, that is the only deterrent, you know. So
Absolutely love it. Go ahead.
so um, anyway, I think, you know, after I had my son, I think it's not that long ago that we're talking about, you know, as I said, he's 14 years old. You remember Lehman's, the financial crisis, but it was a different environment being a woman, being, you know, partly working with the investor community, of course, in English, but living here as well, in the German speaking part. You know, it was like I had to become kind of too niche and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, to be honest, these are all excuses. For some reason, when I went back, I don't have a clear answer, but it was not the same anymore.
Yeah.
And I mean, the way I talk about my career pre all of that, right? Pre having a child, or pre Lehman's and the financial crisis, it was an adventure. And then it was not at all. And I was very unhappy at a large corporate that I worked with. And it's funny, of course, you can look at my LinkedIn profile and know what firm I'm talking about. But there's
Yes,
this
yes.
saying that actually comes from Bambi, the movie.
Yeah.
Where am I taking you today, right? In this conversation.
I love
Uh, that's like I was doing communication for a living. So now it's like very cheap in the middle of nowhere.
it.
Hear me out, Rick. You know, there's a phrase that says that if you have nothing nice to say, don't say
Don't
anything at
say
all.
anything at all. Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, I had in the past worked for companies that were about 3 to 6 thousand employee size, and suddenly I
Yep.
was 60,000 plus employee organization. You know, I was in these calls, even to talk about a presentation, there'd be 30 people on a call, if not more, you know, constructing, like defining, oh, should we say we have the results are strong or meaningful, or, you know, like really
Jargon.
wordsmithing things, and just feeling like, oh my goodness, if I wasn't on this call, and, you know, I just felt like my job had zero meaning. I thought, wow, they pay me a
It
lot,
wasn't.
but
It wasn't coming from a place of authenticity.
yeah, it was exactly, it felt meaningless. And in the past, I never felt that. And what I found shocking actually was the number of colleagues who were also hating this organization, hating their jobs. And, you know, it wasn't something unique to this organization. And so this whole strange world opened up to me, which I had never related to before. And it was like, on one hand, I was really selfishly just trying to figure out what the red thread was, because that had made me satisfied or happy or feel like I was on an adventure before. So I have had to really get quiet and say, what did I do at that second semiconductor equipment company? What did I do at the financial services company? What did I do that was working for me? And now what's so different? And in trying to understand because I really wanted to figure out, well, what is the next step I need to take so that I'm not feeling like this. And if you've been, I mean, I was watching that video of yours where you say, you were going into work day in and day out, trying to figure out, is this it? And, right. And you know how, I think the word soul crushing, that phrase really.
I was hollow. For me, it was hollow. I don't know if that's the right word for you.
Yes, exactly. And it sounds so dramatic because, we are in first world countries. Someone is paying you. What do you want?
What are you whinging about? Yes, yes.
Right?
Good money too. Great money.
Yeah, like grow up, like
Yeah.
it's
I know, I hear
please,
you.
feel sorry for me. Wow, they pay me,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It sounds like it's one of these things where if someone says, "Wow, there's people in that country, the people in the part of the world that are hungry, starving," and you think, I mean, classic parents saying that to say you better finish your food, and you have to say, well, if you're hungry, knowing someone else is starving in another part of the world doesn't actually change the fact that you're still feeling hunger.
That's
and
right.
even though it does sound like a big first world problem to say, I was really upset that it was just not working and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. But I was more upset to realize the people around me thought it was normal. And I jokingly say, it's like if you had a functional relationship and then you think everyone else seems to think being married to an alcoholic that that abuses you is normal. I just couldn't relate to how they also thought this was normal, but especially the ones who had grown up in this environment and similar environments. Anyway, it took me to this whole world of employee engagement, which is such a phrase that gets thrown around, but I think it's one of these things where if you haven't heard it, it's not in your
Vernacular.
right. And so, I mean, you said you had this HR background, so I mean, employee engagement is just such a buzzword.
I'm very familiar with the buzzwords.
Yeah, and but the thing is, it doesn't serve either side because I mean, there's a lot of manager bashing out there, and I'm not into that at all. I think what it comes down to is it's a two-way, it's a relationship actually, which is if I work with you and you're hating working with me, don't be surprised if I'm also hating working with you. That's
Yeah, it's
just
a reciprocal thing, isn't it?
yes, it really, really is so much. So what I did was I just, I said I have this chemistry degree and this MBA focused on finance. So I was an analyst for a short part of my career. So I find it very normal to actually, as much as I talk, we're very quiet and dig deep into a topic. So I just started pulling on that thread to say, well, why is that? What is that coming from? What is it? And it really brought me to really interesting topics. I don't know if, for example, Maslow's, which
Yes,
is our
yes. The
fundamental.
hierarchy.
Exactly, and what our needs are, right? It sounds very theoretical, but it shows up in our lives quite a lot. So the need for safety and security, the need for growth, the need for connection, the need for contribution. These are real, real things um, that that confront a person as they walk through their life. And as I started to say, well, what are the things that fulfill a person? And then, there's like the individual side, and then there's the corporate side, which go hand in hand, which is what's good for the employee. And this engagement and engagement that I'm talking about, it actually is very relevant for companies. So globally, um, only 15% of the world's global population is engaged. So what is the other 85%
What are
doing
they
at work,
doing?
right? And it kind of, I mean, these are all averages, but we all can relate to this, that once you are unhappy with you're at work, it takes about 6 months to find another job. That means your current employer is paying for a disengaged employee who's just coming in and phoning it in. What does that mean for the bottom line of a corporation? And how can employers hire better, get the right person on the bus, and so that people are rowing in the right direction, and that there is productivity. So there's the individual side, which is quality of life. It's all about well-being. And on the corporate side, we're talking big numbers. When we talk about turnover, it's a very expensive problem for a company.
We have a lot of business owners who listen into the show that'd be very interested. The ears would be pricking up, per se, to hear you talking about this, because it is a big problem. So in terms of, you've talked millions of dollars, you've talked personal and professional, you've talked business. I wonder, what are the early signs, and how is it that your business, OpenElevator, actually helps businesses identify the flags, I guess the warnings?
Mm-hmm. So we have actually an algorithm that is a 5-minute survey that we take. And what we do is what we do differently is that the survey is not only fast and accurate, it is a two-sided assessment. So, think about, I don't know how familiar you are with like the dating world, but the eHarmony. Are you familiar with eHarmony?
Yeah, I'm familiar with those sites.
Right. So what an eHarmony does versus like a Tinder or being at a bar is that they are actually assessing both sides. So instead of saying, well, marriages fall apart because of men, or, work doesn't work, work is dysfunctional because there's bad managers, what we do is we do an assessment from both sides, and then we just have we give you a report that says how well is this manager and this individual likely to work well together. And it's a very the numbers are actually very clear. Like I once I would do an assessment, for example, for you and your team. I can read your team so well that you would be like, have you've been sitting in on our meetings? Have you been with us for a year?
What are you doing as a fly on the wall?
Yes, exactly. And the funny part is the questions are not intrusive at all. They're just saying, you telling about yourself. But what we can see in the data very boldly, very clearly, is to say, how well do these two people naturally work together? And I'll say this differently, two ways. Speaking of eHarmony, that I brought up.
Yep.
So I don't know why they don't use this more in their advertising, but the normal divorce rate in the US, in Europe, I think where you are as well, is about 50%. And eHarmony divorce rate is less than 4%. So the thing is, it's just amazing to say there are ways. We all think we're, like this is a part of that was very surprising to me, because as I said, I have this chemistry and finance, but the fact that you can model personalities and figure out who actually naturally works well together is something so easily done. And I'm just completely stunned that we don't utilize this more, because it's to the benefit of both people involved, all people involved. And when I do this assessment with teams that are sitting in global locations, I've had managers say, oh, well, those two, they both are sitting in Poland, so I just thought that they must be working well together. And I do these conference calls, and everybody looks like that everything's fine. And now I see why things aren't moving forward and things aren't getting done. Because, even when it comes to your best friend, so with your best friend, you might have a lot of experiences as far as, you might have done things, sports, and I don't know, gone through different times in your life. But working with somebody is a very different relationship. And, it's about having this trust that the other person's going to deliver in line with what you have in mind? In addition, how does it look, how does it reflect on you when that person does or does not deliver? How well, how smooth is the communication? It's all of these things that it's very hard to change another person to come over to do things your way, you know?
Absolutely. There is just so much to unpack here, and I know this is a very complicated, I guess, set of algorithms in the background that are making this seem simple. I love the example that you've just given through eHarmony, and it gives me hope, knowing full well that if they can, proven through data-driven information, change the outcome and reduce that divorce rate, just as you can reduce, or let's call it improve, the retention rate of employees. That's transformative for businesses. What sort of experiences are you seeing in your business so far?
Well, let's say the challenging part is, I think it's difficult for people to say, wow, you're going to do an assessment also on me. What are you going to know? And I think, well, we're not going to know anything dangerous. We're just going to know who you work well with in your team and who natural fit. It's not something you even know.
Relevant stuff. So
yes, exactly. It's not, I'm not going to find out, wow, you do this, anything wild in your free time, or, nothing.
Whatever.
It's just about this, collaboration, that we can know. The other thing that we are able to say is the organization and the individual aligned as far as the values? So, on one side, I said we give you the data on who works well together. So we did this assessment where we know each individual, how well they work with another individual. Just what is a natural collaboration looks like. And that is, every organization, they, especially bigger ones, try to deliver everything. They say, oh, we're going to try to give you growth, and we're going to try to give you connection. We're trying to give you, every meaningful work and whatnot. And, that's a pretty difficult to deliver on all of the different parameters. I mean, if I have someone, my accountant, his part of the job is not that exciting. I cannot keep giving him innovative things to do.
No, there's only so much, isn't there?
Right.
Yep.
So what we do is we say, okay, we all have our personalities, and we also have our values. So, for example, you asked about, work-life balance. I mean, that's definitely, part of what you value. And maybe there's different times in your life where you say, oh, I need more of that. For example, when I said I started to work part-time when my son was first born, because I wanted to have a bit more time.
Yes.
With him, right? So it's like a different stages, for example, a lot of it's very, I'm exaggerating, but of course, you can imagine that most kids who are now graduating from university, when they come to the workforce, they do want opportunity, and their need for growth is very strong, right? They're not going to be the ones who say, wow, I'd like to work part-time, probably, right? They're going to be like, I'm ready to, put gas into this thing and move forward in my career. So, different you value different things, and as an organization, it's not possible to offer someone everything. But if you're really missing a few things, we can help you figure out what is it that you can do to retain employees who are big red flags with one foot out the door. What can you do? What are the tangible actions? I think sometimes people would laugh at me and say, well, I know they just want to get paid more. And you know what? You would be surprised. That's not the number one.
Money's not everything, is
No.
it? No. I heard there was a study that once you exceed a certain threshold of income, it doesn't actually contribute to your satisfaction levels. Would that be true?
Absolutely. And here's the other thing, Rick. Let's say, like in financial services, for example, you get your bonus in the first quarter. Well, it's hard to remember that by, I don't know, summer, and it's by, in October. If you really hate your organization, actually,
Yep.
Shiny bonus loses its shine pretty fast.
Pretty quickly.
You know that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I, we have just really just scratched the surface of such a deep and very important topic for businesses. And I think what I noticed also is that this really helps in times of market contraction as well. It's not only harder to find great people, it's another thing to be aware of what's going on with them and what they need and how their value sets are changing, all of the things we've talked about. Now, what type of businesses do you work with? Is this a global thing? And who would you like to see have a look at OpenElevator?
Um, I mean, as an entrepreneur, it's hard to say. I don't want to like, yes, yes, we do everything everywhere. But no, I must say, most of our client base is actually focused in the U.S.
Mm.
Partly because, as I said, the business is actually based out of New York. I go to the U.S. more. I've been, I grew up in Georgia. My parents are in Atlanta. I lived in San Jose, California. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a more natural fit for the network I have and the people I know. And of course, but being in Europe, it's not that, this is a um, global problem. And
Yep.
also when it comes to industry, so, we've worked with, of course, financial services, again, because of my natural fit, but technology, IT, also healthcare, especially in this last couple of years with COVID,
Oh yeah.
healthcare workers were so
On the edge, weren't
overwhelmed.
they?
Yeah, very overwhelmed.
To say the least.
Yes, exactly. And just to have that churn, employers, I mean, they feel the pain of people coming in and you kind of almost train them. You kind of got to schedule, organize, and I'm talking about healthcare workers with their, hospitals or in elderly homes and whatnot. You need staff more or less around the clock, and you feel like,
Yep.
okay, I've got this quarter figured out, and then you have someone leaving. And a lot of times what I see is also that, the more people are leaving, the more people are leaving in the organization.
Yep.
It's like the
Yep.
ones who are left behind are like, oh, okay, so I have to pick up the slack for that other person, and this is just getting worse. And so it is what we always do, what we've always intended to do, what we're gonna keep doing is we're gonna keep the whole, the science part of it
Yep.
um, on the down low, only because what we're trying to offer is that here's what you need to do. Here's, we can give you a reason why, but here's what you need to do. Here are the people who are looking to leave. Here's what you can do. Here's a good fit that's going to work smoother. So we just really try to shine the light on the unknown.
And then all the
Companies.
important, the risk, I guess, the risky areas of business that need attention. That's very, very apparent to me. Now, how do you meet a new client where they are in their business now? What's the, I guess, the onboarding relationship forging component to open an elevator with a new client? What's that process?
So it's going on in two different ways. On one hand, there's in the past, especially with the larger corporates, it's usually a call with a decision maker to say, okay, sign up, try it on a very small team. So, and by small, I mean, we're still talking 10 to 20 people, but, just do the assessment, invite individuals that are working together. Let us go do the work in the background to say what this has the data revealed. And then we deliver a report that says, that answers what we call age critical questions. I mean, it includes, all the things that I've already mentioned, which is where, who are individuals at high risk of leaving? Why are they leaving? What can you do? And what can you do? It's A, what can you do for this individual? But B, what is that whole team needing? And on the other hand, what are things that you have in place that are costing you money but not giving you anything back? So for example, team building exercises, fancy coffee, sushi on Friday. Certain things aren't changing anything, but they're still costing the organization money. So we try very much to say, okay, let's figure out,
what moves the needle.
What absolutely moves the needle. Exactly. So that's how it's working. So, I said with the large corporates, it's always a phone call. It's always this try it on a certain department. And for actually smaller organizations, they're just so much more agile. They're like, well, they're like, well, I can try that on 10 people in my team. It's not a lot of money. It's not going to hurt.
Just go for it.
Okay. Yeah. So actually, let's say the smaller the company, the more open-minded the management team. Actually, tech companies especially, they're very open to say, let's just try it out. Let's see what we learn.
Let's just try it out. Well, look, if anybody who's on the call today and you're listening into this and you know that you have a churn issue, you'd be familiar with what I'm talking about with that vernacular, and you want to have a look at OpenElevator, I'd love to know, I guess, where are they going to go? Where are they going to find you and learn more information?
It's openelevator.com.
Mm-hmm. That's easy. I love an easy one. Now, with all that being said, tell me a little bit about where the name OpenElevator came from.
It's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it.
It kind of fell out of the sky into my head. I think also because so much of the business has worked in that way. There's been moments where it's, oh, okay, we've got this part figured out. Well, why does it work like this? So I mean, even when it comes to my favorite part, the actual algorithm and the
science,
the science behind it, I'm sorry, Rick, this isn't going to impress you. It doesn't impress anyone else, but I have to say, once the algorithm was already, we were already testing it on anyone and everyone that we could find, friends and family, and I read this statement from Gallup, who has decades of research. Gallup is doing a lot of work on the site, and they had this sentence that said, employees are more engaged when their basic human needs are met. And I was like, wow, see, that's what we figured out. Now, we engineered it starting from blank paper and reading and whatnot, but that's amazing. And the terrible part is I feel like, wow, they know that or they write that, but they still don't
do anything with it.
Well,
look, I'm very excited because I know we've come to the point, Manal, where people are on this call who are decision makers, those who are in HR, in the hot seat, as it were, to make these decisions, to reach out to people like yourself who are doing incredible things because of your knowledge. That is a real credit to you. And if you are on this call today, and I'm looking at you, the listener, the audience, make sure you reach out to Manal and her wonderful team at openelevator.com. That link's going to be below this call. No matter where you see the post, you are certainly going to be able to reach out to the organization to see how you can improve your employee retention rates. And you know what, with all that being said, Manal, what a great call. Thank you so very much. You are a leading light in this space. Keep up the great work, and thank you for joining me on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time, Rick. Really, I appreciate it very much.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.